Hey, my name is Ian, but you might know me as Collector Emitter. And this is a bit of a different video. Obviously there's no green screen, there's no pedal here. It's just me talking to the camera. But I wanted to share with you a little bit of a behind the scenes, how I make a demo from scratch all the way through to a finished video. I got this idea from my friend Megan L, who makes these amazing animated demos, and she did a behind the scenes video that was so interesting to me because her process is so different from mine. So I asked her if it would be alright if I made my own video inspired by that, and she loved the idea. So shout out Megan. Here's my process, what I do. I'm going to walk you through recording the audio, video, editing the audio, editing the video, tying it all together, and making a finished demo. So this might be some good info for some of you who want to make your own videos, or it might just be a fun watch, a fun behind the curtain. Whatever that might be, let me know if you like the format. I am thinking about doing some other talking to the camera videos, so let me know. And let's get into the process. But first, I want to thank this video's sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid is a service I've personally been using for about a year and a half. They let you upload your own music to Spotify, Apple Music, all the major streaming platforms. And for me, all the music I've released in the past year or so, it's been a project I'm working on, and then one day I say, this has got to be done. I'm going to finish it today, upload it to DistroKid, and get it out there. And it's really freeing to have that possibility. DistroKid makes it easy to upload your music. And now with this new feature, Splits, you can actually split that revenue from any track or album with your collaborators. So gone are the days of counting cash after a show in the back of your van, trying to split it up between all the band members. This just makes it easy. DistroKid doesn't take a cut. They let you set the percentages, and it's just done automatically. So my friend Clint runs Deep Space Devices. Him and I are working on this new music. It's this glitchy, noisy electronic music. I'm really excited to share it. And when we do, we will be using splits to just make this simple, get it out there. So I'm a big fan of DistroKid. I highly recommend it. If you check out the link in my description, you'll get 7% off your first year of DistroKid. This is a great way to get in. It's kind of DistroKid and myself paying it forward a bit. It also helps out the channel a little bit, and you can get that quarantine album out or anything else you've been working on. So I highly recommend DistroKid. I hope you release some music, and if you do, send me the Apple Music link and I will check it out. So thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this video, and let's get on to the behind the scenes. First up is my video setup, and this is super simple and streamlined. I prefer it that way because that lets me get to the creative part, lets me get working. I don't have to be worried about setup and arranging things. It's just good to go. You can see I have this tripod. It is actually a desktop mic stand that I bought a mic stand to tripod screw adapter. On that, I have an iPhone tripod clip. I eventually bought this really nice Manfrotto one, but I've used cheap ones as well. They all do the job. This Manfrotto one is just a little bit more reliable in the angle that it holds the phone at, so I have a little bit less to worry about in the setup. So from there, everything is pretty simple. You can see I have the blue cloth. On that, I put the pedal. If the pedal is blue, I also have a green cloth. You can see kind of next to the pedal here, this is my sort of janky light setup. On this roll of gaff tape, this little light, this is an Aperture MCX, I believe. And it's just a little light. So here, it's just lighting the opposite side of the pedal and trying to do away with as many shadows as I can. That is because if I show you the opposite side of my desk, you'll see I have this big window. I pull the curtain open when I'm filming and gets this really nice natural light into the room. It looks nice, and it adds a little bit of life when the sun naturally moves. That is my lighting setup, very simple. The pedal I just have sitting here. I have my cables kind of wrapped around things, wrapped around the mic stand, or taped down if I need to keep everything just straight and neat and aligned. And that's really the video setup. We'll get more into this once we get to editing, but first let's talk audio. I know some of you are aware of my audio setup. I have shared this before on Instagram or in the description of these videos, so I'm just going to run through it quickly. I've made some recent upgrades. Basically, I have my amp. I'm specifically using this Root Beer 18 watt that I'd love to make a video on eventually, but I'm still working on how would be best to do that because I can't exactly mic this amp in my small Brooklyn apartment. The amp itself doesn't really matter though, because I do have a few other amps that I have used before. My Supro amp, my Music Man amp, they're all here. What's important is I'm taking the speaker output, running that into the Two Notes Captor X. And in the Captor X, I'm mostly using a Vox AC30 with a greenback cabinet emulation. I'm a big fan of greenbacks, and I find that they work well with most fuzz and distortion and whatnot. So that's my go-to, but I have some other presets. I will leave in the description a link to an Instagram post where I shared my presets with screenshots, or if you are a Patreon supporter, which definitely is not required of anyone, it's sort of more like a tip jar for me, but if you are a Patreon supporter, you can download my presets directly from there. I'll flash up my main one here on the screen. That's what I use. Really, this is to simplify, get me a consistent recording sound. From there, I have the speaker output go back to the speaker in my amp. That's so I can hear myself, although I can also mute that and listen with headphones or my studio monitors. Then the audio output is going from the Two Notes into my Universal Audio Apollo X8. I'm only using two inputs, and that is just stereo, quote unquote, coming out of the Two Notes. There's not actual true stereo where you can pan the mics in the Two Notes, but you can have a stereo room. So there's a bit of stereo depth to the videos, but in essence, they're mono. That is, of course, unless I'm recording a stereo video. If I do that, I'm actually going direct into the interface and using an amp sim. And yeah, on the audio interface, I wanted to have more inputs so I can have some synths into the other inputs. I have this microphone that I'm talking into right now into another input, and I never have to switch around cables. It's very convenient. I'm also going to put onto the screen the preamp settings I use in the Universal Audio console app. I use a Neve 1084 preamp that I bought a few months ago. I basically did a day where I hardcore A/B'd all of these preamp plugins that Universal Audio offered, and of course the no preamp plugin, just the clean mic preamp in the unit itself. And I found that I got the most realistic representation of what I'm actually hearing in the room with this subtle setting on the 1084. So that is what I went with. You can see with it up on the screen that the EQ is like ever so subtle, like the tiniest bit of boost, but it's just kind of reshaping things to sound a little bit more like in the room. And that's the whole audio setup. Let's just roll right into the audio editing. I don't do much editing on the audio for the videos. I record everything into Logic Pro. I just have this very simple one stereo track, record everything in, trim it down to the right section, and then you can see on the left side here, I have three plugins that I leave on. The first is Syra V3 from Flux. This is basically a compressor, but instead of compressing when you cross over a threshold, it's riding a volume knob. It's actually just turning the volume down if it goes over a certain threshold. And I have this set very subtly so that you can, it's just evening things out because there's a lot of dynamics in guitar playing. but without altering the performance. I also have pure limiter, also from Flux. This is just very simply making sure nothing goes over -1 dB. So basically making sure nothing hits 0 dB and clipping. And then my multimeter I have set up. This is the Logic stock plugin, but it's my favorite loudness meter. So the important part is this LUFS, or loudness units full scale. So for any of you who make YouTube videos or would like to make YouTube videos, if you have Logic and can use this plugin, set your threshold to -13, and that is where YouTube starts limiting itself. So if I can keep my LUFS number under -13, so I usually shoot for between -14 and like -13.5. Some pedals are more dynamic than others, so sometimes that's easier, sometimes it's not. My goal is to keep things consistent and very straightforward for you all to hear the actual difference in what the pedal's doing, and not just differences in volume and perceiving, oh, louder sounds better, which is not insulting your intelligence. It's a human phenomenon. That's how our ears work. So from here, I just export as a stereo wave file. I save that into my audio folder, and I move on to video editing. For video editing, I am using Final Cut Pro. What I do first is I import all of my clips from my phone, and then I import the audio. And I have this template clip that just sets the dimensions right, just in case. Then I go through and I cut up each section of the audio file and line that up to the clip that I think it matches up with. I go in, and I know some people do this with adding a sharp click, hitting the guitar strings or clapping, something like that, to give you a clean transient to align. I personally have been doing this long enough. I've been lining things up for like 4 years now. So I just do it by eye. I can see, the camera picks up audio because it's in the room, and I can see that audio waveform on both the camera clip and the audio clip, and I line them up, mute the camera clip, and keep going, trim to taste. I go all the way through, and then I fix up the dimensions. So first, usually the video imports in portrait mode, so I want to turn that about 90 degrees. It's sometimes different based on how the pedal was sitting. Then I want to zoom in, get it to look right. For the sound study videos, that is centering it. This is a regular demo that I'm editing, so that's going to be more to the side. And then I crop. There's some things I can cut off from that clip, hide that light that's in there, and also hide any, of the wood desk, anything like that that's showing up. From here, what I do is actually duplicate my clip into 3 on top of itself. And the top clip gets a shape mask. And this is basically saying I'm going to select the boundary of the pedal, basically a rectangle, and that is going to come through with no other editing. That's sitting on top of the pile. That's the top layer. Under that, I draw a mask, and I draw around the pedal and then up, including the jacks at the top or the jacks on the side. So this is where I want to be a little less strong with my green screen effect, because I want to make sure I'm not losing the black of the power cable or things like that. So I have this as a separate layer so I can edit it separately. And then below, that is just full everything. And that's where I start with my editing of the green screen. So in Final Cut, that uses the keyer effect. So I'm keying out the background. So I drop that on. Sometimes it shows up perfectly, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm gonna go in and fine tune. On the black background, it's a little hard, so I drop in this bright green background. Now I can see shadows and artifacts. I fine tune it, sometimes just with the select color tool. Sometimes I go in manually and adjust the colors that it's working with. I try to get the shadows to look as clean as possible. In my mind, it's better to have a shadow than a shadow that kind of crumbles in and out, but sometimes there's nothing you can do. So then I do the same on the middle clip, and that is working with just that area above the pedal, or in this case to the side of the pedal where the jacks are and everything. And I go through and try to make sure I let as much of that stuff through without showing the background. So next I combine all of those layers into a compound clip that just cleans up the timeline a little bit. I separate them where the audio is separate, and now I have the sections for the video. I arrange those how I want. Usually that's the short intro with a sort of basic stereotypical sound of the pedal. So if it's a delay, I make it sound like a normal delay. Then I have my control walkthroughs, and then I have my ending, which is my favorite, usually more out there setting. And then I add in this reverse audio at the beginning. A lot of people ask me if this is a pedal or if I'm doing some weird processing. No, this is literally copy and paste the audio from the first clip and hit reverse in Final Cut. I turn it down a little bit, fade it in a little bit, trim it to the right length, and now we have a cool reverse intro that I think of as kind of my tagline. I put on the logo and text now. I have a text template project where I just store all these templates. So you can see in there I have the templates for a regular video, for bottom text, for a sound study, for the hidden gems videos, for all kinds of different things, and I toss them on wherever they need to be. In this case, I'm just putting the regular text. What I do is copy and paste each section to fill out each clip. I know sort of visually and based on what I played and how I wanted to structure that section, if I'm just going through or if I'm pausing for breaks to adjust the controls. I try to keep in mind with my loops that I play the length. And yeah, so I just place these all first and let them sit there. And then I go back and I go through and I just add the text, and I go through, I add it all. This is probably the most time consuming because I'm trying to be good about explaining the pedal properly, also kind of giving some insight into how you can use the pedal, what's unique about it, without getting too complex. So this is the toughest part, but I enjoy doing it, and usually I'll put on a podcast or something while I'm doing this. And then I have all my text, so there's only one thing left to do, which is add that background, the kind of signature thing for my videos. These are not videos I've shot myself, contrary to what some people believe. These are all free domain videos that I get from various video sites, and I sort of save my favorites in a folder that you can see here. I'm importing some stuff. Sometimes it takes a few tries to get the clip that looks right. Sometimes I know going in exactly what I'm gonna do. I have some clips that I will sometimes layer on top that maybe it's a gradient that I just make really, really transparent so you get a little bit of that color coming through. Or sometimes it's a moving image like the Pixel one I use a ton, or those light leak moving clips. I try to keep some visual variety, but without going too out there because the focus is always on the pedal. For the clip, once it's on there and I like it, I slow it down to 50%. I then go to the video quality section and select optical flow. This basically is interpolating the frames in between the frames of the actual video, make it look a little bit nicer, slowed down. I then copy, paste, and reverse that, and then copy and paste that through the whole video. At the end here, I chop everything off where the logo starts, and that's so I can fade them to black together. That is pretty simple, and that's really it. Now all I have left to do is export. I then also save the current frame. I go and pick the frame where I want it to be the thumbnail, and Final Cut lets me just export that as a JPEG. And I also, this export file is me exporting the audio, and that's what I give to my Patreon supporters. So instead of giving them that raw audio file, it is now arranged in the order of the video. Really handy to have. I also then duplicate the project, make a 1-minute clip for Instagram. Now all I have to do is upload to YouTube and the video is done. So that's everything from start to finish, from nothing to a fully finished demo. I hope you got something out of it. I hope if you want to make your own videos, this was inspiring or helpful or demystified something, or it was just entertaining if you're not planning on making videos. If you have any suggestions for other videos in this format, please let me know. I'd love to do more. This is fun, getting out of my routine. And of course, thank you to the sponsor for this video, DistroKid. Just a reminder that there is a link in the description, which will get you 7% off a full year of DistroKid. Yeah, that's the full video. I'm gonna go. I'll let a little bit of this clip play out. You can watch this full demo that I worked on. I'll leave the link here, and have a good day. Thanks.